Now I would like to request Dr. Pankaj Kumar to introduce our next speaker, Dr. K. Abdul Hakim sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Abdul Hakim sir. He is a senior engineer in Water Resources Informatics Division, National Remote Sensing Center, ISRO. He has more than 25 years of experience geospatial applications for natural resource mapping, monitoring, and management. Also expertise in handling more than 30 projects in the domain of water resources, agriculture, and infrastructure with diversified roles. He also possesses effective communication skills with sufficient experience in capacity building through delivering lectures, organizing customized training courses, etc. He is involved in research and development of new techniques, applications in the field of water resources management using geospatial technologies. He has skills of offering a unique combination of creativity and analytical skills with the ability to achieve target within time while maintaining the best quality. He is proficient in most of the standard image processing and GIS software. He also possesses diversified skill sets covering technical and administrative support, human resources, recruiting process, and project management. Abdul Hakim sir has excellent problem solving skills, good interpersonal skills, committed, result oriented, and meticulous with passion to learn new technologies. Currently, he will deliver a lecture on the topic remote sensing applications in hydrology and civil hydrology in civil engineering. So I'll request Dr. Uh, uh, Hakim sir, he go on to deliver the lecture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pankaj Kumar. I think you have taken some of my time allotted to me, but still I will try to manage within the time. And it's wonderful to hear about us in front of the youngsters participating in this workshop. And I would like to start with thanking Dr. Venugopal and Madam Mahboobi and the management of BIET for giving me this opportunity. And it will be always a pleasure to interact with students wherever they are. Okay. And this is a very tireful Saturday afternoon, and it is really difficult to keep everybody awake. I'll try to keep everybody awake through some colorful slides, because when we talk about remote sensing, mostly it will be color. Okay, with this introduction, I straight go to the next slide. Am I audible and my slides are visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. You are very much audible, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. So whenever when I was asked to talk about remote sensing applications for water and civil engineering, but I saw there is another lecture on GIS in civil engineering. So I thought I will concentrate more on water resources. That's where the strength of remote sensing is there. So whenever we talk about water, I used to start with this slide. What you see right side in this slide is globe, Earth globe, and you see small blue dot on that, blue ball on that. The total water available on the earth, if it is made as a ball, this is the size of that ball. Okay, this is total water available. So all of us know in civil engineering, you would have studied in water engineering, earth has 74% of the water, 97% is saline, nothing is used, most of them are not utilizable. So after this blue ball volume, the amount of water that we can use, the human can use, is a small dot that is not visible in the slide. So that is the amount of water that is totally available in the world, in the earth, on the earth we are trying to manage. Maybe I request others to mute their mic so that I don't get distracted. So the point what I'm trying to tell is, but for such a small quantity of water, which needs to cater to the needs of the total population of the earth, is a really challenging job. Okay. And other challenges when it comes to water resources is the water resource is very highly dynamic, both in space and time. When I say space, at the different locations, the quantity of water availability varies. Correct. So in India, we are blessed with more rivers, but if you take African countries, they have very less water. And if you take other continents, they have different quantity of water available. So it's available in different locations at different volume. Within India, if you take the water is available is not constant over time. Like during monsoon, you have heavy rainfall. Most of the rainfall comes through southwest monsoon. You have plenty of water. Then comes summer, you don't have sufficient water for drinking. So it is so dynamic. Managing such a resources needs more accurate information about the resource. Yeah. So because it is so dynamic, you cannot collect the information conventionally. Conventionally means you go to the field, measure the water, measure the discharge, estimate the depth, calculate volume, compute the volume. It's a gigantic job because today you wanted to measure, by the time you compute the calculations, next day it happens. And the water is so dynamic, you have to give the information very fast. That's where the remote sensing, that is sensing from the space platform, from satellite platforms, observing the Earth and its dynamics is coming into handy when you use remote sensing technology for managing water resources. It's not only water resources, even land resources, ocean resources, atmospheric, everywhere. Remote sensing is very useful, but it's more so useful for water resources because every living thing is created by water, through water. Okay. So there are so many examples. Maybe we can talk on remote sensing application, water resources, hours together, sessions together. What I did is, just for the information sake, I have listed some parameters related to water. So whatever you see here, the blue color in this slide, the left hand side of this slide, blue color like precipitation, cloud cover, air temperature, water level, water body dynamics, land surface temperature. These are some of the parameters that are directly observed from satellite platform. Okay, so I'll be sharing these slides with you through your faculty, so you can always go through, and I have put some references wherever I have picked the materials from. And with this kind of information available from satellite platform, you have plenty of areas within water resources where you can use remote sensing technology. Here I have used the word geospatial technology because initially in 80s, 90s, we used to talk about remote sensing technology. Now, due to advance of many other technologies, especially IT, communication, mobile, so we call all of them together as geospatial technology. Anything related to Earth, any technology related to Earth that talks about the location on the Earth or the time on the Earth, that we define as geospatial technology. So we cannot differentiate any application exclusively remote sensing or GIS or GPS or mobile or WebGIS. So we call them as geospatial technology. So in water resources, geospatial technology has got umpteen number of applications. So I have listed most of them here, and some of them I have highlighted in different color. So I'll be taking you through examples, some of the examples of these applications. Okay, and I will try to give you a flavor of the remote sensing applications to trigger your mind so that you can explore yourself, or if you are in third year, you can plan to do your project work on remote sensing of water resources in your final year. So that's one of my objective of this talk. Okay, the basic information that comes from the satellite data is water body. Okay, now left side out, what you see is satellite images and the water spread area of a few reservoirs and tanks in Rajasthan, or not in Rajasthan, it is in Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh region. What you get is, this advantage of satellite data is you get the same area, information about the same area frequently, more frequently. So as you all aware, if you take example of the reservoir near you, Nagarjuna Sagar, okay, it gets most of the water during monsoon. So somewhere in June, if you see, the water will be very less. As the monsoon progresses, the gates are open. People go to Nagarjuna Sagar to see the sluice gate open and the flood water gushing out of the dam. Okay, so remote sensing helps you in monitoring these water bodies on almost day-to-day basis. There are sensors which gives information on daily basis, but they give only for a bigger water bodies, larger water bodies. There are sensors which can give very small water tanks that is available near your college. Such small water tanks are monitored once in 24 days. So that is the range what I'm trying to tell. So once in a day, also you get the information about the condition of the water body, or once in 24 days, depending on the resolution of satellite data. And the water spot information, what you see on this slide, is very important information. It is useful for various purposes. Above all, it is one of the essential climate variables. There are maybe around 30 to 40 essential climate variables are there. What this means essential climate variable is those variables that define the climate process and climate change, its impact, all those things. As civil engineer, it is important for you to know these ECVs, essential climate variables. I advise you to go through these ECVs later. Okay. Now we have at NRSC information system called water body information system for entire India, entire country. All the water bodies are monitored using satellite data, and the information is available. The area of each water body, whether it's a small tank or a big reservoir, this information is made available in near real time. That means if we have satellite data 1 week back, you get the information within a week or within fortnight. So you have listed the URL of that website. You are advised to go through this website. You can go to the location of your village or your college or whatever of your interest. Look at the water body, click the water body. You get the information about the water body. What is the water spot area over different time period, like graphical information you get, or you can see as a map. You must be wondering, what is the use of this? Okay. And as I told in a couple of slides back, it has a lot of use, but I will be showing one example here. As a civil engineer, you might have designed a reservoir or dam. Okay, while designing, you estimate what is the expected sediment inflow into the reservoir. Accordingly, the reservoir design is carried out. Okay, but in reality, once you construct the reservoir, the sediment inflow is not what as you estimated at the time of design. And the sediment inflow into the reservoir is very, very important information, because that defines the life of a reservoir. See, I am using some keywords. I request students to note those keywords and understand, go through your textbook, you will understand better. The life of reservoir is very important. So that is defined by the sediment inflow. And we should also know, as a reservoir operating engineer, I should know how much water is available that I can use it for various purposes, either for power generation or irrigation or any other purpose. I should know what is the actual quantity of water. So whenever sediment inflows into the reservoir, the amount of the volume of water that is available for you is going to reduce. So it is necessary for you to know how much sediment is flowing into your reservoir on annual basis. It is desirable. If you want to do conventionally, the total exercise, that is hydrographic survey, itself takes 1 year. Whereas if you use remote sensing, you get to know about the rate of sedimentation maybe within a month. If you have cloud-free satellite images, what I am showing here, using satellite images, you can estimate the area, and from ground, you get the elevation for the given. Now this slide, if you see, left side image, I have put different dates and what is the reservoir water elevation on that day. And from satellite image, you get the water spot area that can be easily estimated using any open source GIS with 1 day training or half day training. Anybody can use satellite data to estimate the water spot area. If you plot water spot area versus elevation, then use this information and use trapezoidal and prismoidal formula that you are learning, or you might have learned or going to learn. You can estimate the capacity of the reservoir and compare this capacity with the original design capacity, and you can estimate what is the reduction in the live storage of reservoir. That tells you how much sediment has deposited over year. So this is one of the very essential information required for reservoir operation. So I'm stressing this again and again because this is one of the critical information that irrigation, our reservoir engineers are in need. once you have water, another important parameter about water is its quality. The previous speaker was talking about the water quality. Maybe it is on water quality of groundwater, if I'm correct, I'm not sure. But the river water quality is also very important. And most of you know, Government of India is spending a lot of money, huge amount of money under National Mission for Clean Ganga. What for? They want to clean river Ganga, take it to its original status. Okay. And there is no single solution for achieving this objective. There are different technologies that is being used by National Mission for Clean Ganga. Can you please mute your mic?
Hello.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the technology that is helping National Mission for Clean Ganga is geospatial technology. Here, two information we are mainly providing to National Mission for Clean Ganga. One is satellite image based spatial water quality map. What you see right side at animation at different dates of satellite data. What is the total suspended solids? That is also called turbidity. Turbidity of river Ganga is provided to the National Mission for Clean Ganga. And also we give information about the chlorophyll content of water. Chlorophyll is another water quality parameter that is hindrance to usage of water for different purposes, for drinking or bathing or any other purpose. Okay, so these two information comes from satellite data. In addition to this, we have given a WebGIS platform, what you see left side, where entire information about Ganga basin that is available with National Mission for Clean Ganga, and that is also available from different sources, is made available in one single location. So if anyone wants to know what are the different locations where the quality is measured, or where are the different locations where industries are located within the Ganga, all those information are available in one place. So here the technology that is provided is WebGIS technology and open source GIS technology. The third one, what we have provided for National Mission for Clean Ganga, is we have developed one mobile app, and that is made as available in a public domain. Using mobile app, anybody can report if any pollution happens in river Ganga or its tributaries. He has to simply go to that location, take a photograph, add some description, upload. The next moment that information comes into this portal. So these are the power of the technologies. Okay, mobile technology, GIS technology, WebGIS technology, GPS technology. So all technologies are really there for you to utilize. It is left to you or your imagination how you make use of these technologies. Then comes another major area where Government of India is spending a lot of money. I don't know, I hope most of you are aware, there is a department called Department of Water Resources under Ministry of Jal Shakti. Every year they spend a lot of money in construction of irrigation canals. Irrigation canal is one of these job of civil engineer. Okay. Now, here the technology comes into effect to understand the progress of construction more effectively in a time-bound manner. Traditionally, the annual progress of irrigation canal construction information comes once in 2 years, or it doesn't come on time. Like what has happened last financial year, how much canal has been constructed. That kind of information takes another half an year or 6 months time by the time the government has to release next installment of money to the state government. So this is where the remote sensing technology comes into picture, gives very good images, what you might have seen in Google Earth or another Indian geo platform called Bhuvan. The high resolution images gives very clear information about the condition of the canals. It's not only condition of the canals. Using GIS, you can measure the length of the canal, and using very high resolution, you can also see the hydraulic structures across the canal, like culvert, bridges, siphon, aqueducts. All these are civil engineering terms. You would have studied in your water engineering. These are the hydraulic structures that is constructed in a canal. All those information you can easily find in satellite data. In addition to this, if you see the right side image, what I have shown here, a canal is at different stages of construction. If you see it on top right, the canal is completed, where you see black color water, and then some earthwork is there, and some gap is there. So remote sensing satellite images also give the status of the canal. So how does it is useful for me? For example, if you see this slide, I have put 2 circles on the image, and you see a line drawn, yellow color line, that is a distributary in Tista Mahananda Link Canal. Okay, this distributary is around more than 20 kilometers of length. Okay, distributed is more than 20 kilometers of length. And the first circle left side, what you see is the chainage of 18.676 kilometers. Okay, that means up to this point, from zero chainage, the canal has been constructed for a length of 18.67 kilometers. Then comes a small gap in the canal. The gap is around 140 meters. Okay, so and then you see another canal is constructed for a kilometer, and again another gap is in this image. The generally irrigation engineer tells the government, state government, and in turn the central government that totally we have constructed 20-kilometer canal, but the gap of 140 meters is not told. Because of this gap, the water cannot be released. Unless this gap of canal is also constructed, water cannot be released. Okay, this is where the remote sensing gives additional information than what you get conventionally. And this gap, which is very small, mostly due to land acquisition problem. So if this kind of information is available, the engineers can speed up the land acquisition process and construct the canal, so that the 1 kilometer canal that is constructed downstream can also be made use of, and water can be released up to that canal. And 1 kilometer of canal can irrigate easily 1,000 hectares of land. Okay, so that's where this kind of information are crucial. Now, once you have canals in place, what do you do? Use that canal to supply water for irrigation, and using that water, agricultural crops are grown. That's where again remote sensing comes in to help for the irrigation engineers. As an irrigation engineer, you want to know the performance of your irrigation system. So from the reservoir, as a civil engineer, you release water to your command area, and how much water is used, like utilized, what is the area of crop grown under this. So again, remote sensing satellite images helps you. So here, this image, what you see here is Jurala irrigation project in Telangana. I don't know how many of you have visited. If you have not visited, during your coursework, if you visit any of these projects, definitely you will enjoy your study. Okay, this Jurala irrigation is one interesting project where Government of India spent a lot of money under accelerated irrigation benefit program to construct canals. And this set of images shows, because of the canal construction, how much area under this irrigation system has increased. So if you see here, left side I have annual rainfall graph. Right side you have the command area crop grown under this irrigation project. So first half of the slide, if you see, rainfall was less, and the area in the right hand side, blue color area also less. Once the canal is constructed, the area under the irrigation system, Jurala irrigation project, is continued to be high, even though rainfall is less. If you see the corresponding period in left side graph, especially 2011-12, even though the rainfall is almost 50% of the maximum rainfall of these 10 years, but the area is almost 80 to 80% of the maximum area during this period. The reason is canal, the reservoir is available, it has full of water. That water comes from upstream area. Then the canals are in place. What is the point in having water in reservoir without canals? So that's where the remote sensing helps you to monitor impact of the money that you spend or the canal that civil engineer constructs. Okay, so I was giving you some example about new irrigation projects. Now, once the irrigation project is already in place, initially farmer hesitate to take any crop. So as they enjoy getting reliable water. See here, I wanted to clear your thoughts about what you study in your class. There is what is the definition of irrigation? It is supply of right quantity of water at right time. Right quantity and right time. This is the definition. Okay, if you open any irrigation textbook, this is the first definition. So to know right quantity of water, you know what is the crop grown in your irrigation system. So again, remote sensing helps you not only to know the crop, what stage that the crop is. Like, no, some crops need more water during initial stage and less water during later stage. So advantage of remote sensing is you get satellite images at different time period in a crop growth season. So you can, if you see right side photograph, it is taken in one of the northern states of India where wheat is grown. You see wheat in 3 different stages, adjacent field. One farmer has grown early, so the wheat has grown into advanced stage where it is seen yellowish color, whereas the nearest farmer, what you see in the foreground of the photograph, he just started little late, and it is in vegetative phase. It is green. The grains, wheat grains, have not at formed. This kind of changes you can easily identify on satellite images if you take satellite images from different dates. So how we see that is a technology, it is a skill, like knowing any software. No, this is interpretation also a skill you can learn easily by going through some courses. So what I am trying to tell is this kind of information is also available. Okay, I'll be going slightly faster because I am keeping an eye on my time. I will be showing some interesting examples to trigger your thoughts, and you're always welcome to explore more on this topic. This slide, if you see, you have 3 different images, satellite images of one irrigation system in Odisha. It is called Hirakud irrigation project. This sensor, satellite sensor, has got unique band, what we call one sensor with one band that tells you the progression of the moisture in the land. How did it help? Like, no, if you see the first image, there is no moisture in the land. Land in the sense the reservoir is in blue color. The water released through reservoirs goes through the command area through these yellow lines. Yellow lines are canals. The water released through these canals. As the canal water reaches different parts of the command area, it is supplied to the fields. So middle image shows the initial fields in the command area, which get water. Then after some day, you see the date difference between second image and third image is just 9 days. Within 9 days, you see more area is underwater. The blue color part you see is water, that is moisture, wet soil. This is mostly paddy system. So you have standing water in the initial stage of the paddy, like land preparation. You see how the water released from main reservoir is reaching different parts of the command area. You need not physically go to each and every location. You can sit in your office, in your irrigation office, and look at how things are happening. So that is the advantage of remote sensing, the real definition of remote sensing. And not only initial stage of your crop season, as the crop grows, you can see the area under crop growing. If you see the left-hand side image here, different depths of same irrigation project. As the crops are grown in head ridge, medial ridge, tail ridge, the area under different crops can be easily estimated using GIS data. And you can see the advantage again, why irrigation engineer need this information. He should know how much area of crop is there in his system. Then only he can supply right quantity of water. So that's the reason I told the definition of irrigation. To supply right quantity of water, I need to know what is the right quantity of requirement. To know the crop water requirement, I should know what is the crop or what is its area. That's where remote sensing is coming to help. And I'll not go in detail. This slide itself, we can talk hours together. So much information there in this slide. Okay. Now, I'm coming to another dimension of civil engineering in irrigation projects. When you do over irrigation, see, Indian farmers are mostly Indians. We try to use something that is coming freely, correct? Overuse. Like if in your home there is no water scarcity, you get water 24/7 continuously. While brushing your teeth, you keep the tap open. Whereas if you are living in a locality where water is scarce, you use 1 mug of water to do everything, like brushing, cleaning your face, everything. So similarly, the Indian farmers' attitude is when water is available through canal systems, they try to over irrigate with the perception that if I supply more water, I get more yield. That's not true. So we need to supply right quantity of water and at right time. So because of this, what you see left side, one typical canal irrigation system, due to over irrigation, the groundwater level has increased and it resulted in water logging. It is one of the ill effects of over irrigation. So this waterlogging leads to water salinity. For both these process, remote sensing also comes into help. I'll not go in detail. I have shown some example. Again, each one, the way remote sensing is being used for addressing waterlogged issues or salinity issues, it's exclusive topic to be discussed further. Okay. Now I was talking about major irrigation systems like Nagaland Sagar Reservoir project or Jural irrigation project, whereas remote sensing can also be used for a small minor irrigation tank. See, The image what you are seeing here is from one is from Tamil Nadu, another from Andhra Pradesh. Especially southern Indian districts have plenty of such water bodies, and more than 1/3 of total irrigated area is under this system, tank irrigation systems. Okay, so these are the small irrigation system. This is where you can also use remote sensing with high resolution satellite data. The image what you see in this slide is very high resolution satellite data. Left side of these three images we see each field, what is the crop. You see some pattern. Based on the pattern, one can easily tell what kind of crop it is, whether it is sugarcane or gram, or there is no crop in the field. Harvested crop also you see very clearly. And middle image, if you see the open wells in a typical Indian irrigation system, open wells, they are also can be identified in this kind of satellite images. And this kind of high resolution image also has application to update the command area map of irrigation system. Okay, with the short time, I cannot give more details about this. I can give you an example. Telangana government in the first, the current government of Telangana in the first cycle, like last 5-year period, Chief Minister introduced what is called Mission Kakatiya. All of you must be aware. The objective of that Mission Kakatiya is to regenerate all the tanks in the state of Telangana. But when they started, they had very little information about all the tanks and the command area of those tanks. That's where the remote sensing helped. And using satellite images, they have updated command area map of cadastral level, like what you are seeing in this example, for around 13,000 tanks in this state. I will be showing some example on that. Next comes another major application area is flood. Okay, flood, you might have heard. You might have, as a civil engineer, you would have studied flood routing, flood hydrograph generation, flood forecasting. Okay, each of this area, there is a role for remote sensing. The very first information that remote sensing can give is, in case of any flood happens due to either monsoon rainfall or cyclonic rainfall, it gives the area that is inundated. The right side two images, what you see is very high resolution satellite images showing standing water, inundated water in the city of Chennai during December 2015 floods. See, most of the land is underwater, what you see in this image. What you see gray color portion in the right side two images are the area underwater, standing water, flood water. Okay, so remote sensing, for example, if yesterday there is a flood, there is a probability of getting satellite image today from different satellites. Morning 10:30, 11, you get satellite image, you take the data, you process the data within 1 hour. By 12 o'clock, you'll be able to generate this kind of information. Okay, then you can monitor the change of the inundation, or you can use the effect of this flood on different locations in the area where the flood has impacted. You can also generate information again about low-lying areas, and if it is a severe cyclonic storm, any wind damages due to cyclone can also be seen, or you can mobilize data through crowdsourcing. See, what I'm trying to show, the technologies can be used wherever disaster occurs for disaster management effectively. So that's the one example what I am showing in this slide. Not only during disaster, even before disaster, you can forecast the flood level in a river. And for the forecasted flood level, using satellite-based information called digital elevation model, high-resolution digital elevation model, you can forecast the area that is expected to get inundated due to forecasted water level in a river. This, what you are seeing, is a Sabari river, which is tributary to Godavari. What you see right side animation is the inundated area at different time periods, and middle two images, what you see is simulated area versus satellite based area. That means how close the simulation is to the actual area that is inundated due to that flood event. So it is applicable for each flood event. You can generate this kind of information. And we at National Remote Sensing Center, my colleagues at National Remote Sensing Center, we are doing this job. Already we have done for Mahanadi and Godavari. We are also doing for Tapi River. So we are in the process of making it available in public domain. Okay. Now, see, I'm taking you through a journey of different phases of water resources. Then comes very important phase of water resources. This to assess, to know how much water is available with you in India and different basins. Okay, somewhere in 1993, Central Water Commission did assessment of water availability at country level at different basins. Recently, NRSC and Central Water Commission together, using satellite image based inputs, we have done reassessment of water for entire country at different basin level. And the information about how this is done is available in Central Water Commission website. You can go to the website. As a civil engineer, as a water engineer, future water engineer, this document will be very useful to understand the methodology, how the assessment of water availability can be estimated. And this study has given a new quantity of water available in the country. Now, as on today, as per official notified figure based on the 2017 study done by NRC and Central Water Commission, the total water availability in the country is 1,997 billion cubic meters. And this information is available at basin level. So you can go through the report for more details. And at the end, I'm almost coming to the end. I'll be slightly faster. Maybe I can eat away some time that is spent for interaction, because interaction always can happen either today or throughout our life period. You can always reach me through my email address that is in the last slide. I will take from instead of ending at 2:40, I'll take another 5 minutes. And I'm coming to some of the interesting slides. Now, the slide what you're seeing here is Himalayan region. If you see the middle, top middle, a small image is there. That is satellite image of 5 basins in Himalayas. Here, what NRC has done is, it has estimated what is the expected snowmelt runoff in the month of April, May, June, summer. During summer period, from Himalayas, how much snow is going to get melted and flow as water into Indian rivers. The Indian rivers that is listed here, shown here as Chenab, Bias, Yamuna, Bhagirathi, Satluj, Alaknanda. Among these rivers, Satluj River is important river for the reason that the water from this river that is stored in Bhakra Reservoir. Bhakra Reservoir, you can go through the Bhakra Reservoir. That water is shared by 5 states. Okay, Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, Delhi, and one more state. I'm not getting. Okay, you can go through Bhakra Bias Management Board website. You get the information. The total water out in the reservoir is shared with 5 states and for multi-purpose. This is a multi-purpose reservoir. What is the purpose? Drinking water. All these cities nearby. Then power generation, one of the tallest dam in the country, and it is also having a lot of area under for irrigation. And the water that is going to come from snowmelt process during summer is very critical, because that is the time where you have a demand for irrigation, power, drinking water. Summer we drink a lot of water. Summer we power cut will be the more. When you switch on air condition fan, so you need a lot of power demand, and Rabi crop is there. So demand is more, supply is unknown. The snowmelt runoff that is going to come into this marvel is unknown from the month of April, May, June. So NRC has studied the satellite data of the region that is outside India. In the satellite basin, 2/3 of basin area is outside India. You cannot go and see how much snow is available there. So we sit here, take the satellite image, estimate the snow cover area, and give forecast into the Bhakra Reservoir. And this we have given successfully to the tune of 80 to 90% accuracy. That means the total water that is going to flow into Bhakra Reservoir in the months of April, May, June, the information is provided by 7th of April. With that information, they plan water allocation for next 3 months for different users, different purposes. So that is the criticality of this information. Okay. And another major information that we get from satellite data is information about the status of glacial lake. It is also another important information. Most of the glaciers in the Himalayas are lying outside India, and the glaciers over the years, they move. While moving in the process of movement, glacier movement, they form glacial lakes. And these glacial lakes over the years, they form into big lakes, and these are all temporary lakes, not man-made. It is not a dam impounded water. It is naturally formed lake. It can break and bring in a lot of water into Indian side, where most of these rivers are available. And as all of us know, most of the population settles along the river. Okay, whenever such a flash flood comes from such big water bodies from Himalayas, it damages the bridges, the houses, the power projects, the population. The lives of all these people living along the river in Himalayas are at stake. So remote sensing gives the information about these glacial lakes in real time. And we are in the process of generating database about the condition of all these lakes. There are thousands of such lakes across Himalayas, and you can visit NRC website to know about all such lakes information made available in the website. You can always go through. Now, I have told so many things in last maybe 35-40 minutes. You must be wondering where to get this information. So all this information are organized in WebGIS in the name of India Water Resource Information System. India Water Resource Information System, shortly called IndiaWaris, the information system, a system developed by NRSC for use by all the water resources organizations in the country, especially Central Water Commission and Ministry of Water Resources. And it was a 5-year project. We have handed it over to Central Water Commission, and it is now being updated and managed and improved upon by them. So what you see in this slide, the URL indiawaris.gov.in is a new website address. I advise you to go through the website, and there are plenty of information about the water resources of entire India. Sorry, and you can visualize, view the data, and you can also download the data for your research purpose. This is one sample irrigation project systems. You have all water resource projects, either dam, their information, their particulars, weir, lift, barrages, whatnot. Everything about water in India is available in this website. Okay, and NRSC also helped the government of Telangana to have its own water resource information system, and the website address of this information system is also made available here. I advise you to go through this. Again, in addition to the information available in IndiaWaris, you have more detailed information about major, medium, and minor irrigation projects in the state of Telangana. Not only that, we have real-time information from automatic weather station available in this. You also have monthly groundwater level information for all the around 800 plus 750 groundwater wells in the state of Telangana. See, the information is strength. Okay, we can play with this information. I can give a simple example before I move to the last slide. For example, if you want to buy one land for irrigation, like you wanted to grow some crop, and you wanted to know what is the groundwater status in that locality, you use this information. Here you have information about groundwater for last few years. You can go to that location, you'll have information about a nearby well, observation well. It will give indicative information, whether that area last few years, whether it was the groundwater was increasing or decreasing, or it is maintaining the same. So I'm just giving one example as an individual, a common man. This information is available in this public domain. Okay, but the irrigation engineers of government of Telangana, they make use of the information for plenty of applications. Again, this itself is a big subject. We can speak hours together. Another typical example of technology adoption is Andhra Pradesh Water Resource Information and Management System. Compared to Telangana Water Resource Information System, in Andhra Pradesh Water Resource Information System, you also have managing tools, like, you know, the decision can be taken based on the real-time information that is coming into the portal, this information system. Typically, the right side bottom picture, what you see is the government of Andhra Pradesh Water Resources Department make use of this information to send alert to move rain gun from one place to another place where the crops are expected to die due to lack of water. The water wherever is not available, or moisture, groundwater is low, moisture is soil moisture is less, then the system can tell the people, the government officials, see, in so and so village, they are running out of water for crops. You please do the action. So that is the level of information one can generate if you use geospatial technology. And before I end, another 2 minutes I'll take. I would like to introduce one geo platform of ISRO developed by NRSC. That's called Bhuvan. I have given the website address in the slide. Bhuvan geo platform has got plenty of data, satellite data, around 60 dB of data for entire country, different time periods, different resolution. You have a lot of information. What I have shown in Telangana Varis and India Varis, Andhra Pradesh Varis are water related information. But this Bhuvan geo platform has information about most of the natural resources in the country. I suggest you to go through and make use of the information that is made available in public domain. It has also got plenty of mobile apps, millions of information generated through crowdsourcing, and you can also have your own application developed using the API available in this Bhuvan geo platform. So towards this, the applications under this Bhuvan geo platform, they are organized in agriculture, water, forestry, e-governance, many more. And it has also got APIs, maps, open GIS, Geospatial Consortium services, OGC services. You can make use of them for your analysis, for your research, in your application, in your GIS software. You can call these services. You can use the information and the data, satellite data, as a service in your application, or you can also develop your own application. So you can collaborate with Bhuvan. You can generate your own applications for your local needs, and that is the strength of Bhuvan geo platform. And I am almost coming to the last slide. Yes, this is last slide. Just to show the strength of Bhuvan geo platform. I put displayed image of one area known to you. I don't know. Can anyone tell what is this? Can you tell what is this?
Sir, college, sir.
Sir,
Whose
our
college?
BIT college.
Oh, how did you identify that it is the BIT college? Guessed it? Or you know the shape of the college? This is the building, this is the ground, this is cricket ground, this is some other ground, correct? These are the other building workshops.
Yes, sir.
Am I right?
Regularly we used to see this in Google Maps.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Google
Okay.
Maps.
Yeah, nice. So you use Google Maps. So I request you to start using Bhuvan hereafter for the strength of Bhuvan. Okay, this image that is taken from Bhuvan geo platform is on 22nd December 2017. So this is how your college was on that day. Okay, and as an individual, as a human being, we have our childhood photographs, and we have our photographs taken at school time, college time, or when you become old, your marriage or your daughter's son's birthday. You take photographs. You have the memory. But when it comes to institutions like this, you have photograph. That's where remote sensing helps you. Okay, I would like to show you how your college was looking on 21st March 1979. Is it interesting? Can you see anything here? Nothing. Only land, natural formation. One small mountainous ridge is going like this. Correct? This is a small mountain. I think I have not gone to your college. If you call me, I will make a visit. But from sitting here, I can say it's small mountain ridge or something high elevated land. Otherwise, nothing was there in 1979. Correct? And now it is a beautiful place. Nice building where you come out as an engineering graduate. And this college also would have given job opportunities for the people living around this. Okay. So when you use remote sensing, you can see how my locality was, how my locality is, and in future, how your locality is going to be. If you can do some research forecast, you can also generate information, satellite image like information for your area. That's where the technologies, image processing technologies, all technologies are being applied. As an engineering student, I urge you to think over how I can make use of this information for the benefit of common man in the country. And I would like to end with a request of 3 S's. 3 R's to save water. That is to reuse, reduce, and recycle. Okay, with this request, I end my presentation. I thank you very much for keeping your mic mute, and I'm thanking all the organizers of this event for giving me the opportunity. I request you to note down my email address. Anytime you can write to me for any topic on remote sensing, anything related to National Remote Sensing Center. You are always welcome. Thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Students, if you have any questions related to remote sensing regarding anything, please interact with sir. Students.
So, respected sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, we have shown image of our college in 1979. Still we can go back, sir?
No. The reason is the technology was not there. Space-based technology was not there before that. See, Indian remote sensing satellite, first Indian remote sensing satellite was launched in the year of 1988. Okay. Whereas the image that I have shown is, it is from spy cameras of Russian satellite called Corona. Those days they named the satellite as Corona. These are Corona images. They are all like films, like photographic films. They have launched a satellite with these films that has taken a photograph. That film was brought back and processed. This was a classified information. So 1979, the technology was available only for defense purpose, not for civilian purpose. Now you have images in Google. Everybody can see their house, their backyard. But those days, the technology was not there. The oldest images available is only in 1970s. Before that, there is no image available in the public domain. Maybe American, Russian may be having in their confidential secret information. But what is publicly available is images. What I have shown, 1917 images, is available in public domain. Beyond that, nothing is available. Yeah. Next. If you are hesitating to ask question, you can also put your question in the chat box. Because those who ask only get the information.
Okay, sir. I think they are hesitating to ask questions, sir.
One question, madam. One question,
yeah.
please, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir, recently
Yes,
you have released one app for a National Hydrology Project, sir. So
Yes,
that
sir.
is you have given the runoff map for the country.
Yes,
so,
sir.
So that is derived from the rainfall of global precipitation model or the rainfall from our actual observations in the fields?
Sir, that information was generated through hydrologic modeling using a variable infiltration capacity model. The input rainfall data is from IMD.
Yes.
The real-time country level gridded data.
Yes.
IMD is giving. So that is being used. And we also use forecast data from Global Ensemble Forecast System, GEFS.
Yes.
Or ECMWF forecasting data is also made use. So again, these are all satellite-based rainfall data.
So what we found when we were doing these things is they will differ. Global precipitation model and the actual observations in the field, they are differing. Sir. Because of that, what we realize as runoff, they differ from both when we take GPM and when we take actual water levels. So why that gap is there, sir? Why that gap is there?
Yeah, I understand. Yes, sir. Sir, the purpose of setting up different hydrologic model depends on the input data availability. The one that we have shown under National Hydrology Project is a course level grid-based model, hydrologic model. That is the information generated out of this model can be used only for regional level application, not for local level applications. So for local level applications, we need, as you rightly told, because those are coarse grid information rainfall, that is average rainfall. whereas the actual rainfall on the ground will be highly dynamic. So if you want to model a discharge into a particular river, you need to have more density rainfall data. And it is not only daily data, if hourly data is there, your modeling is going to be better. So the type of input data that is required, and then calibration that defines the accuracy of your model output. So that is the difference.
Sir, that GeoGlows, perhaps you might have heard thing. So we are also doing the training under the World Bank they are giving. So GeoGlows, they are giving runoff for different dates. But actually, it is not being realized in the field. I think I am observing for this Krishna River, but what GeoGlows gives observations are they are not matching. So,
sir, why they are matching is very for a simple reason, sir. Even what NRC has published in National Hydro Project, that model, big model, variable inflation capacity model, it doesn't take into account the reservoir storages, because that information doesn't come in real time. Even for GeoGlows also, what the GeoGlows or our runoff gives is what is called virgin flow. Assuming that there is no storages, no reservoirs, whatever waterfalls comes in the rivers, that is the assumption. So this kind of information is not useful for daily monitoring of river flows. It is useful for long-term data assessment analysis, like climate change effect, impact of climate change. If land use and cover is changing, how it is going to change affect the water availability, or if at least it can tell predict the flood events, number of events. Like if you take a long-term analysis, earlier once in in a year 3 flood events used to happen in Krishna River in one particular location. Now because of climate change, more rainfall, erratic rainfall, more number of flood events are occurring. For that kind of information, this kind of model inputs are useful. But for day-to-day using, we need to set a model at the finer scale, which needs more input data. So accordingly, the effort will be more.
So our college has got recently started machine learning course. So can we club this machine learning for forecasting, sir? Based on the
definitely it is one of the potential areas, sir. The machine learning is like, for example, as a human being, what we do is we try to take long-term data like flood data or rainfall data, whatever historical hydrological related parameters, we take long-term data, whatever human mind thinks, we try to model it. Whereas machine learning can do the learning in a better way than what individual human being can do. Like it can try to see the patterns in the long-term data and predict better than what we predict. So definitely machine learning has got a lot of potential. And that's what I'm urging the students. The new techniques should be made use of in civil engineering applications.
So can we start in a small way in our college, machine learning applications for forecasting this runoff?
Yeah, we can make, sir, no issue. My colleagues from NRC who are working on flood forecasting, I can ask them to review now and then, or you can make a presentation to them. They can go through and suggest the improvement or guide you through the process. It is one of the good areas for this.
So we will prepare some draft and we will come to you and present, sir, so that you can
sure.
Whether it can be done in our college. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for
welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. I'd like to thank on behalf of our college for sharing your valuable knowledge and providing amazing information about remote sensing application in hydrology and civil engineering. Sir, again, I look forward to your cooperation in future for any information related to remote sensing in doing projects or anything like how Dr. Venugopal sir said. So we look forward for your cooperation, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Sure.
Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Yeah, bye.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to request Professor Abhish to introduce Dr. Bhaskar sir for the next session.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Today